Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's presentation. Before I go ahead and introduce our presenters and cover and start the presentation, I just wanted to cover a bit of housekeeping topics with you. For anyone that may have just joined us, we are recording today's session, so keep an eye in your inbox for a link to the recording in the days following the event, and you can use that recording for review and or to share with a colleague. Also, if you have any questions either before, during, or after today's presentation for our presenters or myself, the host, please feel free to direct them via the chat and or Q&A window, and we'll do our best to address people's questions at the end of the presentation. So without much ado, I'm going to go ahead and start today's presentation. Thank you for joining us for the Liquidware FlexApp Lives Up to the Hype webinar. Today we are joined by industry experts Rory Monaghan and Jeff Pitsch. So without much ado, I'm going to go ahead and hand over control to Rory, and he can take us through the presentation.
Great. First, I'd like to say a quick thank you to all of you for viewing the webinar today, and also to Jeff, Ray, and everybody at Liquidware for inviting me to speak. I'd like to begin by sharing some of my experience with application delivery before application layering and FlexApp became available to me, and share my insight on the value of FlexApp. I've been working in application packaging and virtualization for close to 15 years. I cut my teeth on products like AppV and ThinApp. Application virtualization was said to solve some of the complexities of MSI packaging and scripted installs. It looks like the slide is not advancing. Can you just move forward, Ray? Thank you. You can move forward two more. Thank you. So some vendors and consulting companies who are marketing their services with application virtualization expertise often sold organizations on being able to virtualize up to 80% of their applications. Can you advance? In my experience, organizations getting 80+% of their apps virtualized is the exception, not the rule. In rare instances, I virtualized more than 90% of a company's apps, but being successful with virtualization is very difficult. Most out there achieve between 60 to 70% success rate. Getting to that 90+% success rate with something like AppV usually requires some ingenuity and creativity. So for example, if you go to my site, rorymon.com, and search for an article titled Dealing with Drivers in AppV, you'll see how I handled some of my applications that contain drivers, which of course AppV does not support, and some other containerization and app virtualization products like ThinApp, Turbo.net, and others do not support. Essentially, what I had to do was embed the application's installer into my virtual package along with the files, registry, and services that the application installed. The AppV package then installs only the drivers locally while the rest of the app remains virtualized. And that does work for some applications, but it is also quite complicated and takes time to put together. When I first used Unidesk many years ago, it was a godsend. My applications that contain drivers, DCOM, COM+ component services, boot time services, and more could all be delivered as application layers. I had a way to deliver all of my applications relatively quickly and with ease. I thought, well, this is cool, but not all my customers that I work with are interested in VDI or a soup to nuts virtual desktop management product, which Unidesk essentially was. They didn't necessarily need the OS layer for their image management. They didn't necessarily want the user layer for helping to manage the user data and user profile. So I had thought, well, the application layering feature is very powerful by itself. I get a very high rate of success putting my applications into application layers. It would have been great if I could just use the application layering feature by itself. Enter FlexApp. So you can, of course, use FlexApp together with Profile Unity for an overall UEM and application delivery solution, but you can also opt to just leverage FlexApp if that's all you need. FlexApp, as the name suggests, is extremely flexible. You can create a FlexApp on a VM that's running like one operating system and then deploy it to clients that are running different operating systems. So for example, if you have an application that you create a layer on Windows 7, you could then run that application layer on Server 2012 R2, 2016, or Windows 10 in some cases. You can store FlexApp on cloud storage or traditional on-premises storage, and they support integration with your existing infrastructure and platforms, be they VMware Horizon, Citrix virtual apps and desktops, Parallels RAS, or even to physical devices. While FlexApp isn't the only application layering product on the market, it is the most feature-rich layering application product on the market. As you will see in the application layering community what matrix, you can find this matrix at whatmatrix.com with a bunch of other comparisons also available. This one that you see on the slide compares application layering products, but you could also compare app virtualization products, desktop as a service platforms, and more. So you can see on this screenshot there, the vendor rank, which Liquidware ranks as #1, but it's actually being hidden there. There's only 3 application layering products that are compared in this what matrix. But it is the richest feature set of all the application layering products. But you could also set a priority based on the importance of certain features to you. So for example, if you want to create your layers on Windows 7 and have the ability to then run them on something like Server 2012 R2 or Windows 10, you could set the priority high for that feature. You could also set that, say, deploying to physical devices. If that's important to you, you could set the priority high on that and then generate a report that's unique to you and what you want out of your product. I believe a big part of the reason Liquidware gets the #1 spot and has the richest feature set is because they find themselves in a pretty unique position in the market space. They are not necessarily mandated to develop around a roadmap to suit other products higher up the virtualization stack, like some of their competitors. They release enhancements regularly and innovate with significant new features, like for example, click to layer and flex cache. It is for these reasons and more that I turn to application layering as a solution to help deploy all of my applications, and why FlexApp is the most interesting product in this space. It really complements other products. So for example, I've deployed a lot of my applications with AppV. That's kind of what I cut my teeth in. And then I also use FlexApp to deploy some of the applications that are very difficult to sequence in AppV, are just not possible at all. And little by little, I find myself turning to application layering more than app virtualization because it has a quicker turnaround and a higher first-time success rate. I can think of no better person to throw this over to than Jeff, who has a wealth of experience in the end-user computing space and application layering in particular. And in the application delivery market, we're in a very interesting position today with MSIX on the horizon, AppV with a pretty uncertain future. I don't know if you guys saw some of the activity on Twitter yesterday. I'm always on Twitter. But at MMS, it seemed like Microsoft may have been suggesting that AppV will continue to be shipped with Windows 10 through 2020, which means after 2020, what's going to happen? It could be deprecated. So probably more now than ever, it's pretty important to be looking at what you're using for your application packaging and delivery. So Jeff, feel free to chime in.
All right, man. Thank you, Rory. Yeah, so I think that's like you said, this is a very interesting time because we have a lot of initiatives. And I'm not speaking of Liquidware, I'm kind of speaking of the whole Microsoft ecosystem. You've got Microsoft pushing everybody to move into cloud. You've got organizations pushing back saying we're not ready. We need still the on-premises stuff. You've got virtual desktops, physical desktops that all need to still be managed. You got cloud desktops with typically larger organizations starting to really dip their toes into the whole cloud desktop thing going on there. And then of course we have our upcoming Microsoft's WVD, which includes Windows 10 Enterprise Multi-User. I know that's not the exact right name, but I'll call it multi-user because that's what it is. It's taking the technology that was in the client the whole time. If anyone has seen any of my posts on Twitter, my blog posts about it, the terminal services, I'm old school. Those terminal services back end has always or almost always been in client. Microsoft just blocked them from really working like they used to. It's actually a very fascinating history. I think it was when XP first came out and these features were in there and people really trying to take advantage of them to get around the whole RDSH licensing, the cost of server, so on and so forth. So really, as Rory said, I come from the Unidesk background. I come from a very strong Citrix background since the WinFrame days and kind of growing up through the MetaFrame, presentation server, all that wonderful stuff. So I've got a lot of experience in working within this environment, this multi-user environment. And the one thing I do like to say is that, the great thing about FlexApp and in fact, all of Liquidware's products are that they are used on physical as well. FlexApp probably being the one that requires that you have very well managed physical desktops if you're going to use FlexApp with it, but it can be done and it works wonderfully well. I wouldn't throw them at laptops if they're roaming around, outside, but even that can be done. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it, but this is the beauty of what Liquidware has to offer. So first, I just want to kind of run over this slide here. We offer essentially three pillars, three products within our suite. The first is user environment management and profile management. Environment management, setting registry settings, printers, mapping drives, all sorts of things, setting backgrounds, basically setting up the user environment and enforcing that user environment if you so choose. We also have the ability to elevate a process privilege so that you can take away users' admin rights on their desktops. And if an application is required to have admin rights, you simply say, yep, this app, when it runs, it will have admin rights, but the user will not. And then we have the profile management piece. This is actually really slick because this is all about making the user profile Windows profile version agnostic. So if you're moving from Windows 7 to Windows 10 or an early version of Windows 10 to a later version of Windows 10, there are profile version changes. And in a typical environment, when you make those types of changes, it starts the user profile over, which typically results in a lot of work for either the end user or the desktop administrators to get settings to move from one profile version to another. Once you throw Profile Unity in there, which is the name of the environment management and profile product, you never have to worry about that again. A user can actually go from Windows 7 to Windows 10, back to Windows 7, jump forward to Windows 10, go on to RDSH 2016, 2012, and those appropriate settings will follow them between those different sessions. So you never have to worry about a user losing their profile information, again, simply because Microsoft updates the profile version. And then we have application layering. That is FlexApp. And as I said, I come from Unidesk, which was acquired by Citrix. I've been doing app layering for 8 years now. Really, I consider myself one of the early ones. There's Ron Oglesby, Rob Zalowski, and myself, basically in that order from a public-facing standpoint. And as Rory said, obviously, I love what layering has to offer. I love the promise of what it has to offer. And what I want to show you today is that FlexApp delivers on that promise where the other products don't necessarily deliver on the promise. I know I hear, from some people say, we tried these other products, they just didn't work like they, like we had expected. And I can tell you, FlexApp does work. And then the monitoring, Stratosphere UX. This to me is one of the most important products that we have, if not the most important, simply because it quantifies the actual user experience. It can give you baselines. So if you're moving from physical to virtual, virtual to cloud, physical to cloud, it doesn't matter. You need those baselines so you understand what was the user experience before you moved them, what was the user experience now after you've moved them. Is it the same? Is it better? Is it worse? A lot of times when people are moving to, whether it's virtual desktops or putting something on RDSH, they don't have the understanding of what their experience was on their current desktop or their old desktop. And so this allows you to really dig in and see everything that was going on. It can help in troubleshooting. If a user has an issue, says, hey, my login is slow, we will give you a millisecond by millisecond breakdown of the user login, and you can find exactly where the problem is. In fact, I just used this morning in my lab to troubleshoot an issue because it was taking like 70 seconds for Explorer to pop up and appear for me. And I was able to go in and say, yep, there's 70 seconds, there's 35, there's 30, and see exactly what was causing those issues and quickly get those fixed. All right, so layering according to me. So the promise of layering, the big one is the dynamic delivery of Windows applications. Whether you're physical, whether you're persistent, whether you're non-persistent, and non-persistent is really the use case that people look for first. The idea of cutting down on the amount of images that you're using, that you're deploying, whether it's an RDSH, XenApp, View, desktop, or server, it doesn't matter. You don't want to be managing a bunch of images and then have to carve them out even more. So my typical example is you've got accounting and you've got HR. They each have their own image because they have their own set of applications, but you got 5 users in each department that actually share an application. The typical way to get to work with that is to create an image for HR with another image for HR and another image for accounting for those 5, those 10 users, and you throw that one app in there that is unique to them. What if you could use the same image for their departments and then just dynamically deliver that application at user login so that they have it, but you don't have to come up with a whole nother image? That's just one example of what FlexApp, or really what layering, I should say, because it is supposed to be able to do for you. That's a really big promise.
On that point, Jeff, I actually thought of a pretty good example. So not me personally, but one of my colleagues in the tech community is working on a project for a company based in Texas. He got in there, they had 115 different PVSV disks, so 115 branches of an image, and they signed the contract for multi-year just to undo that mess. So if they had a solution to just dynamically deliver the applications like this, then they could have just reduced it and kept it down to a significantly lower number of images to manage.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And that's, and that's what we hear a lot. Oh yeah, I've got 50 images. And so much of the time it's just little one-off applications, right? And that becomes an issue, with the image delivery process, because if you use like an SCCM or something like that installs the application, well, now the user has to wait for it to install. And if it's a non-persistent environment, how does that work? Then it's got to install every time the user logs into a new desktop. Or if it's RDSH, you have to, now every user has access to that application if it gets installed. So it can be very messy. So, let me jump back here. So similar to AppV, layering is extraordinarily similar to AppV. It really kind of falls into that, except layering does not have application isolation. This is the key difference. If you've got two applications that have to run on the same desktop and they use different versions of Java, AppV's your answer for at least one of them, right? Because you could put Java into the base and layer the application down to it. But for one or both of the applications, you're going to have to use an isolation technology like AppV to get that application delivered, because Java just doesn't like to play nice with other versions of itself. So it is not application isolation. A layer, when delivered, has full access to the operating system. It has full access to other applications that are in the image or being delivered as layers. So basically, to Windows, it's just part of the image. That's all there is to it. And to the user, it's the same thing. So right here, to the user, to the Windows, it doesn't know that it's being delivered any differently than just being pushed down as part of the image, which just makes life easier for everybody. Like Rory said, the fast turnaround, because you're not having to poke holes in the virtual bubble to get intercommunication with other applications going, things like that. This is, and I'm going to show this later, what an installation and capture looks like, but it really is the same type of packaging paradigm that we've all grown up doing, whether it's SCCM or the WISE installers. Basically, you start a capture, you run your installation, you stop the capture, reset the VM back to its default state, you're on to the next capture. It's that simple, that quick. So all layering essentially does the same thing with a filter driver. It creates a view of the file system and registry that makes it look like a single C drive. And I probably should have addressed this earlier. What is a layer? In most cases, it's a VHD that is on a file share somewhere, and that gets attached. And there's a filter driver that basically takes all the disks and, like I said, merges the view so that Windows thinks it's all a single C drive. And like I talked about, cut down on the number of overall images, easily add, update, and remove and deliver applications. So why am I going through all of this? Because this, to me, is what layering is and what layering should be. And that unfortunately is not always the case. And I think I just talked about this. Rory kind of mentioned it. Really, layering is not meant to replace an SCCM. It's not meant to replace an AppV. It's not meant to replace other ways of delivering applications. It is another method of getting applications to your end users. And I think a lot of people tend to dismiss when these new technologies come up, and I think that's a problem, because why would you not want to take advantage of something that may very well make your life a lot easier? And now I understand some people may have been burned by some of the other texts that are out there. And I'm going to explain to you why you need to look at FlexApp, because it is so really not the same as other layering technologies. So in the beginning, this was Unidesk, this is app volumes, a layer stack. So basically, think of it as a cake. We called them hockey pucks being stacked on top of each other. So basically what happens is you've got this stack. The operating system is always at the bottom. A user layer, if one is in use, is always at the top. And applications have a priority system within them that determines which application is stacked above other applications. So you have that virtual file system, and what the operating system does is it basically dynamically reads through the stack from the top all the way down to the OS, and when it finds the file or doesn't find a file or registry setting, it stops at that point. So you can see here in the blue, we've got start.exe, and the darker blue start.exe. It's from layer 3 because this is the first start that the filter driver is going to find, and that's it. That's the one it returns. So the problem that really starts to come up is that because you have this conflict, let's say it's a DLL. Let's say you get the wrong DLL in the wrong priority order, you have to go through and try to find what is the file that's causing an issue, a conflict between two applications, because typically you just simply don't have the visibility into the various layers to see what is in them to help determine the conflicts. So basically what you have here is that you have layers that can overwrite the operating system, layers that can overwrite other layers. And if you're using the user layer, which is basically capturing all of the writes from the user and the machine, that overwrites everything. So FlexApp decided to take a different approach. And while we call it layering, the FlexApps aren't really layered on top of anything. In fact, it is a very flat approach. We use the analogy of puzzle pieces. The applications, they just snap into the operating system. The image, as it says there, the image always wins, and that's important. If there is a conflict between a file or folder in a FlexApp versus the image always wins. So that's important. So you got these applications that snap in and they snap out, which means that when you remove an application from an image, from a user, what have you, there's no residue left over from that application. It's just as if it was never there. It just kind of goes poof. So we have a technology I'm going to dive into in a few slides called micro-isolation. So the image always wins. What if there's a conflict between two different FlexApps? That's where this micro-isolation comes in to eliminate those conflicts. And the big thing here, so I talked about the layer stack. When you attach a layer, when you're using the layer stack paradigm, it's one at a time because you have to have that priority. So app 1 gets laid down. After that's done, app 2 then gets laid down. App 3, and depending on how many you're attaching, that can take quite a while because it has to be chained. They cannot be delivered at the same time because of that ability to overwrite a layer that's underneath it. So you can't just throw them on. FlexApps, because it's a flat approach, get attached in parallel and does not hold up the user login at all. We do not stop the user login from happening. They can pull up, explore, the desktop will appear. And at most what you'll see is you'll see about, a few seconds, it'll finish and you'll have all your icons on the desktop or wherever you put them. There we go. Yeah, sliding out there. I forgot about my little animation. So FlexApp Overview. Whoa. Yeah, see, I'm hitting too much here. So FlexApp is integrated with Profile Unity. One of the big advantages is that with the integration with Profile Unity, it gets to take advantage of the filtering system. The filtering within Profile Unity means basically it's criteria. If you meet this criteria or a desktop meets this criteria, you will get a FlexApp. It can be as simple as a username, could be as simple as a user group, machine name. It can be as complex as if you belong to this user group and you are logging into an internal machine on a Tuesday, you get these FlexApps, which means in the end that if you are logging in externally, you will not get those FlexApps because you have to be part of the internal network to be able to get them. And it does look at endpoint IP address through, the various, whether it's ICA, RDP, that type of thing. So you can see who's coming in from where and all of that wonderful stuff. The second one I think is huge, and it really, really shows the difference between the other architectures and what FlexApp is able to do. Compatible with Citrix provisioning. We're compatible with MCS, we're compatible with Composer, we're compatible with the just-in-time desktops on VMware, all of that stuff. But provisioning has been sort of an issue. If you've worked with some of the other layering products, you know that you typically have to bump up the write cache disk to take because of the way that their filter driver works, because it's intercepting and doing all of the writes and whatnot. So you use up a lot more space. FlexApp doesn't do that. Our filter driver doesn't do that. Our filter driver basically says, are you making a call to a FlexApp? No. Okay, you go back to the PVS driver so that it can stream in whatever blocks it needs. If it is a write, then for a FlexApp, then our driver will handle that. But it's not doing every single write that happens when being called. It's only for the FlexApps. Package once, cross OS. If an application will work on Windows 7, Windows 10, 2016, you should be able to package it. I'm not going to guarantee ever 100%, but for the most part, you take a Chrome or whatever that works on Windows 7, Windows 10, you can have cross OS compatibility, one package being delivered to multiple operating systems. Fast packaging, I love this. Like I said, it's the same paradigm as other packaging methodologies. So you have your VM, you log in, start your capture, install, stop the capture, hit save, you're ready to go. And you can start deploying. Yeah.
Probably a pretty big differential, I guess, compared to some of the competitors. With you guys, you could just run the FlexApp console and create the layer on like a given VM rather than needing to like orchestrate a certain VM from the management console. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, basically, I always refer to it because people are used to like, an SCCM and stuff like that. They're used to that kind of speed of packaging. We give them that speed. And I'm going to hit this on the next slide, but I'm going to jump kind of right to it. Not only can you package quickly, you can package 35,000 feet in the air. If you've got the installer, you've got, say VMware Workstation on your desktop, or you're using Hyper-V, whatever the case may be, you've got your packaging machine, you can package the application on your laptop. And when you land and you get to wherever you're going, you could then import what you just did and import it into your environment. If you're a consultant or you're packaging for other companies, you could literally have all these tested packages ready to go. So if someone says, I need this app packaged, you can deploy it. Basically what I'm trying to say is that there is nothing within a FlexApp package, unless you put it there, that makes a package environment dependent. And what I mean by that is, unless you throw something in there like you got to have these login credentials as part of the package, which you could always change, and I'll show that to you. But basically, you could take any one of these packages, clean them up nice, and I'll show you how to do that as well, and hand them out to 50 different companies, the same exact package. They can just import it in, they're ready to go. Role-based access, so you can give users the ability to package, and that's about it. You can give them the ability to deploy those packages. Basically, very, very well-defined role-based access on giving those users only the rights they need to be able to either package, deliver, whatever the case may be. So a few of the things that really make FlexApp unique. And when I went through this, I was really trying to pick things that really no one else does. The packaging, no one else does that. Being able to package anywhere, anytime, anyhow, and take that package and move it around, import it, export it, whatever the case may be. The filtering, decide who, when, where a FlexApp is delivered. You can, do, like I said, simple user group, as complex of a filter as you want to be able to put it to deliver it how and when, where you want. Cross operating system, I think it does deserve to be mentioned twice or 3 or 4 times, because really no one else does this stuff. We have currently 3 ways of delivering FlexApp: computer boot, user login, and click to layer. Computer boot is exactly that. It attaches and mounts and is ready when the user logs in. User login, exactly that. When user logs in, that's when it's attached. Or click to layer. Basically what that is we put an icon on the desktop, and when the user double clicks on that icon, that's when the application is mounted and delivered. So I do want to address one thing that people talk about: why would I want to use these? Because whenever you do anything on a computer, it uses resources. I'm not going to deny that. And like I said, even though we log in, we mount FlexApps in parallel when a user logs in, big complex applications, they can take a hit, even though maybe they won't be there right when the user gets their desktop. Those may be apps that you want to deliver at boot. Those may be apps that, maybe you feel that an app, you just don't want the user to have any hit, you just want it to be there and ready to go. Mount them at boot. If it's an application that maybe they use once a month, once a quarter, do it as a click to layer, because then they're not being hit unless they need to use it. Basically, I love the name FlexApp because really it's as flexible as you need it to be to get those applications to your end users. This next one I think is pretty big too. Easily edit a package. Other layering tech just doesn't have the visibility into what is in those VHDs. And if you want to modify them, it can be done. It's not pretty, it's not easy, but it can be done. We give you a File Explorer reg edit type view of everything that was captured, from the file system to shortcuts to print drivers to the registry. We can clone FlexApp, so you can make a copy and modify from there. And one thing we've just introduced, block level caching. So when we introduced the ability for FlexApps to be delivered from object-based storage in the cloud, S3, Azure Blobs, Google Cloud, I don't know what their object-based storage is called right off the top of my head, but basically because Windows doesn't understand how to mount a VHD from object-based storage, we started doing block level caching, much like AppV, another similarity to AppV. And this block level caching is slick because it really gives us a couple of things that no one else has: resiliency and failover of a FlexApp. So if the network goes out, whether it's a blip or a little bit longer, they won't lose the application. They won't necessarily blue screen their desktop if it's, if the application might normally do that. And if the network does blip and they make a call for another block, we have the ability to fail that over to another location automatically behind the scenes, so that the user never knows that they aren't grabbing a block from a different file share or from the cloud or what have you. So more ways to layer. I already talked about these: boot, login, click to layer. In the next couple of months, we're going to have 2 more: post login. So basically, you can prioritize your applications when a user logs in, which ones get mounted first, which ones that then get mounted after those initial few are mounted. So just saving some time on the user gets their important apps first, they can start working, and then you trickle in the others after those are done. And then triggers. This one's pretty cool, I think. Time of day, certain app is supposed to show up. 4 o'clock in the afternoon hits, bam, there's their application, it gets mounted, those types of things. Those types of triggers. Session, disconnect, reconnect. Could be an IP change. Maybe they're changing floors. Maybe they're, roaming between, and they're only supposed to have an application in this location, not that location. Those are the types of triggers that we are talking about here. And just kind of a tease, we've got some other ways of making sure that users get applications when they're supposed to and how they're supposed to, coming up even after these. So cloud, we can deliver a FlexApp from the cloud. Like I said, object-based storage, very easy to set up, very easy to get an application into the cloud. You can simply package it directly into the object-based storage. You could clone an on-prem package into the object-based storage. You could replicate between on-prem and cloud so that they're always in sync. It doesn't really matter. But basically, we support all the 3 major cloud services that are out there. So you could literally have failover between all 3 clouds. If you were going strictly cloud, you could say, I'm going to pull from Azure, but you know what? If that's not available, we'll go to AWS. And if that's one, then we'll go to Google from that. And it just kind of, depends on the latency, where it's going to get those application blocks from. So cache for cloud and SMB. So when you put an app, FlexApp in the cloud, it has to be cached. It has to be, because they can't mount the VHD directly. If you're pushing it from an SMB share, you have the option per FlexApp to either turn on caching or to not have it enabled at all. So basically what happens, application starts, it's copying blocks down, much like PVS, much like AppV does, only pulls those blocks that are needed. And if there is a read to a block it doesn't have, it automatically goes out and grabs the block that it needs, as opposed to, say, a 20 meg file or whatever the case may be. There is a cache. The cache will, the cache is on a per block basis with the expiration. So if a block hasn't been used by default in 7 days, that block expires and they would have to pull it if they ever used it again. Persistent and physical desktops obviously gain performance when they log in subsequent times. This can also be used on non-persistent, but it would have to cache every time. And we are working on some things to help save that as well. So caching with failover, I want to give you an idea of what this looks like. So you've got your desktop, whatever it may be, and you've got your applications, your storage in the background. So what happens is user logs in, and here you've got SMB share up top, you've got your S3 bucket down here, and they are being replicated between so that the Flex apps are in sync. So user reads from SMB share. The failover works by determining where is the fastest location to get the block from. So in this case, the user is in the office, SMB share is faster. So it's gonna grab a block from the SMB share. But what happens if that share goes down, the server goes down, whatever the case may be, or it's simply, for whatever reason, the latency jumps in between the endpoint and that share, it's gonna automatically fail over to the S3 bucket. And when it does that, then it will grab its block. And then when it goes to read another block, that share comes back or the latency dies down, so it's fastest again. It's gonna just jump right back over there and the user reads their block from there. The key, like I said earlier, to all of this is that this is happening behind the scenes. The user, the administrator have nothing, they don't have to do anything. Once the admin configures where those locations are at, the FlexApp service basically takes care of determining where it's going to grab blocks from. Micro isolation. This is our ability to not have, file conflicts, file and registry entry conflicts between FlexApp layers. So what happens? You've got your image, and within that image is micro isolation. When applications are mounted, there is a process that determines what's in conflict, what files and registry entries are in conflict. So you can see we've got conflict DLL between the two Flex apps. So if FlexApp 1 starts to make a call for conflict DLL, well, micro isolation knows, oh man, they've both got that file. So what happens? Micro isolation redirects the call back to the originating layer, so that in this case, Firefox is reading conflict DLL from its own layer. And the same for Chrome. When Chrome makes a call to that DLL, it gets redirected back into itself. No more conflict. Same with reg entries, things like that. So this is just a very elegant, easy way. Nothing you have to do. It's all determined on a dynamic basis. If you update a layer, there's nothing you have to do. When the layers are mounted, part of that mount process with multiple layers is determining where those conflicts are at. All right, so demo time. So Ray, can you pass me over so I can share my screen? And we will see how a truly live demo goes. All right, so I am going to share. All right, so can Ray or Rory, can you guys let me know if you can see my screen?
Looks great.
I can see it. No problem.
Okay, perfect. So I'm logging into my desktop here. This is going to be my demo 01 user. This is the user I'm going to use. But the first thing I want to do is I want to show you. There's no OpenOffice. There's no Notepad++. I know we're kind of running short on time because I'm a talker, but I just want to show you. None of those are in either program files or program x86. This is a very clean machine. So what I'm going to do is I am going to sign out of here, and I'm going to go to my packaging machine. So you can see here I've got Notepad++, I've got a OpenOffice, and basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to package one of these applications. I think I'll do OpenOffice for the heck of it, and I'm going to log into my packaging console. And the first thing that you're going to see when this logs in is, by default, Liquidware delivers cloud apps. You can see our little logo there. That means these are delivered from our cloud site. So that what you can do is take like Chrome, and I could clone this package and then make it local. So what does that look like real quick? I'll just do this. So I'm going to give the package a new name. I tell it the package type. I could clone it to another cloud location. I could just clone it locally to this desktop if I didn't have a location yet. FlexDisk is an older technology, but that is basically VMDK if you wanted to, but basically, and then where, if I'm doing a VHD, where am I going to store that VHD? This is my main repository for FlexApps right here. So what this would do is if I hit clone, it's going to basically copy it down from the cloud and put it into my on-prem share here. But what I want to do is quickly create a package. So I am going to do OpenOffice. I'm going to make it into a VHD. I'm going to make it into put it directly into my repository. I can choose and I can type in my own size as well. It doesn't have to be one of these, and whether the disk is going to be expandable or fixed. I hit create. So now what this is doing is it's getting itself ready for the capture. And when this comes back, there we go. So now all I have to do is I hit start, and I'm going to minimize this and kick off my Apache, or I always say Apache because that's what I see first, but my OpenOffice installation. And you can modify it, do whatever you need to do. When you run through the install, put it into a different directory if you want, or take out pieces and parts, the whole 9 yards. We don't limit you in what you install or how it gets installed. You just do what you normally do. So in this case, I'm just hitting next, 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 because who doesn't do that, right? Because that's what everybody does. But basically, this is just capturing, and basically when it's capturing, it's actually redirecting all of this information to the VHD, the registry entries, the file entries, all of this wonderful stuff. And when this is done, I will go back to my console and I will tell it, hey, I'm finished. It will then take everything, kind of finish the packaging up, do some back end stuff, and then I'm going to show you what the Explorer looks like. So if I want to edit something, maybe I forgot that I needed to add some registry entries or something like that, I can still go and do that. One of the other cool things too is when this gets done, and before I hit save for the entire package, if I forgot to install a helper program, I can simply say, you know what, let's reopen the package real quick. Let me install the helper program. So you don't have to finish it and then redo restart the entire packaging process just to be able to capture something else that you may have forgotten or something like that. So very quick stuff here. So this should be almost done. There we go. So now it's finished. And if I come back here, I'm just going to hit finish, and you can see you can reboot the packaging machine, do everything you need to do from that perspective. We don't and when you reboot, it will automatically start up the packager again so that it knows to continue packaging. You see here that it's saving, and when it's done here, extend and configure will be available, as will save. Basically, extend and configure kind of basically do the same thing. It's basically just reopen the package. And that's what I was talking about just a minute ago. Oh, I forgot to throw something in. Extend it, bam. It's taking the same exact package. You're not having to duplicate efforts. I am just going to save this. So here you can see I have OpenOffice saved to my FlexApp location. Now I can go in and I want to view, because I want to make sure there's no noise that was captured when I captured this package. So here you can see, I can see everything that was captured, where it was captured. Maybe it's noise, maybe it's not noise. That's kind of up to you to determine, but I can come in here and I can see where everything went to. Same with registry entries. We're capturing all of this. We can push all this stuff. Maybe I don't need some of this stuff here. Like I probably don't need OneDrive information. So if I want to, I can simply come into here and I could delete those entries, and I would not have to worry. I would probably want to go down here to delete the OneDrive, not the Microsoft stuff. But basically, that's it. I can rename, I can delete, I can add in settings, you know, new stuff here. It's all available for you to do. I am going to cancel that. So now we have a package. Now, if I go to my profile Unity server here, I will have to hit Control-Alt-Delete. That always helps on a server. So I already have a configuration that I've created, but what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go into my FlexApp module. I'm going to create a rule, or a rule. And you can see here I've got all these filters by default. These are simply default filters. If I wanted to create my own, it's actually very easy. I just come in here, I hit create, and I can say that I only want, I'll do demo 01 for the heck of it, or I'm going to call it demo 01. And then I can see here, user group membership, primary group, machine group, username, IP, a bunch of stuff. You can have matches, not exact, is exactly, is not. You can put in your values here. You can determine the class type, whether it's a terminal server, whether it's a desktop, the OS specifically, what protocol the user may be connecting in from. These are all conditions. And like I said, if I wanted to come in here and say, let's say user name, and I can do exact demo 1. And then if I want to say, but you know what? I only want them to come in by ICA client address. And I'm going to make it general. Maybe it just contains 192.168.1. And I can add that in too. And so now in this case, each of these would have to be, because we're using an and, these would all have to be true for the user to get the app. I could switch this over to an or, and whether it was demo 1 or they came from here, then they would get that. So if I hit save, I'm not actually going to use this one, but just to show you how quick and easy it is, I've created my filter. Now when I go to create my rule, I can simply come in here and there it is if I want to apply it. No filter, basically everybody gets the application. So you can see here, this is an open office from our cloud. This is the one that I just created. And you can see here, I can enable it for click to layer. I can tell it to cache the blocks locally if I wanted to. I'm local. I'm not too worried about my network going out. So I'm just going to hit save. And then I am going to deploy this configuration. And that's it. So now when I come back here, if the demo gods are willing and able, I will now log in with demo 01. And on there, we should see open office when I get my desktop. So there's Edge. Do the demo gods favor me? There we go, right there. Open Office 416, ready for the user to use. They have their desktop. So if I want, I could come over here, double click on it, and it's basically going to go out to the share, read the information it needs, and start pulling me through the initial setup process for OpenOffice. Now, obviously, I still have a few background things going on here with my desktop logging in. There we go. So now it's coming up, and it's going to ask me for my name, my initials. It's going to pull up my apps that I have. And that's it. We now have OpenOffice delivered to the end user, and they are able to fully use it. And there you go. That is a live demo, and look at that. The demo gods smiled upon me. I appreciate that. So that's really everything I wanted to show. Do we have any questions or comments or anything that Rory or I could answer?
We do. Let me go ahead and come up through some of them. There's quite a few. I don't know if we'll have a chance to get through all of them today. So we'll get through what we can, and then we'll make sure that we follow up with everyone what's out there. Let's see here. All right. So someone asked, can you convert app-v or app volumes packages into FlexApp?
Yes. App volumes, no. But app V, yes. I actually came up with this late last year, how to convert an app V package directly into a FlexApp. It's actually quite easy and easy to do. I can get more information out there about how to do that.
Someone asked, can two versions of the same app run, such as multiple versions of Java or Chrome?
Nope, that's app V. You could get one app to run as a FlexApp, but minimally at least the second app would have to be isolated because FlexApp does not isolate applications.
Yeah, and I think Jeff talked about that earlier too, and he did suggest like, oh yeah, you could put that in AppV. Now I know there's some other solutions for handling Java, like just redirecting to a certain version of Java or a legacy version for only when that is required for a certain site or application. Personally, I do prefer an application virtualization or isolation tool for doing that because having Java installed on the machine, an old version of Java installed on the machine, to me, it's a less secure way forward. At least there's some obfuscation with isolation and virtualization to reduce the surface level for attack with those legacy versions of Java. I'm not a security guy, but that's kind of just what I think.
Yeah, boy, old versions of Java. That's yeah, security-wise, not a great thing.
All right, here's a question. How can FlexApp handle click-to-run installs the same way as other apps?
So our click-to-run is simply you get an icon, and it's an icon on the desktop. The user double-clicks on it, and that at that moment is when the mount process happens. So to be perfectly upfront, user double-clicks. It's going to take a few extra seconds for the application to actually start because it does have to mount, and we gotta get the file system ready and stuff like that. That's why I said so I'm not sure what other click-to-layer technologies that they're referring to, but from our standpoint, it's just simply we haven't done the mount process of the VHD, and when you open it for the first time, that's when it does it, and then every subsequent time they open it within that same session, it will, it's just going to run essentially locally. Then it doesn't have to remount every time.
All right. Someone asked, is FlexApp able to layer an app that installs to the user's app data?
Not directly, no, because we don't capture the file system of the user. There are ways that we can get around that because a couple of things that I didn't bring up before is that we do have scripting, kind of like before and after an application mounts and an app, before it starts, that type of thing. So there, and with the integration into ProU, Profile Unity itself, there are ways that we can get those types of apps to work, but just by default, no, we don't capture what goes directly into the file system of the user profile.
Yeah, I actually did an application layering bake-off. So if you just like Google search application layering bake-off, it's outdated now. I think FlexApp and some of the others can handle more application types than back when I originally posted it. But one of the things I did check was user-based installed applications, and all of the layering products at the time could not handle those particular applications, which obviously they're going to be fewer and further between for enterprise customers anyways, but it's a good, valid question.
Yeah, and it's always tough because it's the user profile, right, of the user that I'm logged in with when I'm capturing. How do you differentiate between normal profile noise and what the application specifically needs to run, right? So I mean, and if it's per user, there are also chances that you're going to get specific per user information. So unless you really know what needs to be modified, deleted, whatever, to get rid of some of that stuff, it's a lot more difficult, I think, than what people expect.
Okay. I think we've got time for one more question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of group a few different questions together that I think are all related. And some of the people are asking about how this works in mobile worker type situations. Maybe somebody on a laptop and they're about to go on the road. How would this work for them?
Yeah, unfortunately, we do not have a way of caching an entire app onto like a laptop, like before they leave type of thing. So right now, mobile, where they may be on network, off network, on network, off, is just not a good fit for FlexApp or layering in general. I don't know if you've got any suggestions, Rory, for something like that. It's always tough, I mean, because you want to be able to kind of update on the fly and things like that with applications for mobile users, but unless you're using like an Intune or something like that, or MDM to push the, it's tough.
Yeah, and some security-focused organizations like in finance and in healthcare are actually looking at different ways. So, like in that example, caching the application down so they're able to access it when they go off the network. Some are actually looking at only showing that application when they are on the network and forcing them to launch via something like Citrix virtual apps or Horizon apps for those applications when they're not on the network. Because even if it's a managed device, they want to secure it when it's offsite and not have access to some of those applications and some of the data if the laptop is stolen. Which I think only some of the larger organizations who have the budget to handle that are worried about at the moment. But it's interesting that there's kind of these two different mindsets and worlds thinking about that scenario.
Yeah, and it's always tough. I know I did work a few years ago with a construction company. I believe it was in Wisconsin, and most of the time, the people they were concerned about were offline. So they were asking, how do we get virtual desktops to these people and things like that? And it's like, without a connection, there's just not a lot of options there. So it's a difficult struggle, and you're not alone in that struggle. There just is really not a great way of, kind of tying everything together, right? The security, the ease of access, access to the data. It's all, yeah, it's tough, and I don't have an answer.
Okay. I'm seeing questions pour in still here. We've got probably at least a dozen or more questions here, and I think with that being said, we're already pushing about close to 10 minutes over our time frame here. So what we'll do is I'll leave the session open for a little bit if people want to continue to add in questions. And like I said, we can follow up afterwards. But before we do that, I did want to remind everyone that we are recording the session. We will make it available and send it out via email for you to review and or share with a colleague. If you have any questions, again, you can push them through here, or you can reach out to sales@liquidware.com, and we'll do our best to respond to everybody and get you the answers to your questions. I see that some of the questions in here are a little bit more, some of them are complex and would take a long time to answer. So with that being said, we'll take that offline and go from there. But thank you both, Jeff and Rory, for your presentations today, and everyone for joining us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rory. And have
Thanks,
a good
Jeff.
move back to Ireland.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.